So let's talk about the England Woodland Creation Offer first of all, because that's the most important grant that we work with, certainly. And it's the Forestry Commission's flagship grant for woodland creation. It rewards farmers and landowners for establishing new woodlands, and particularly those woodlands that are designed with social and environmental benefits in mind. It covers the standard costs for capital activities and items used to create woodland. So we're talking the trees themselves, we're talking tubes, fencing, etc. It helps maintain young trees with annual payments. That might be to beat up or replace dead or dying trees. It might be to do fence repairs. It might be to do inter-row mowing, for example, and weed control. And it supports the cost of installing infrastructure to manage woodland or improve recreational access. So if you're planting with timber and timber harvesting in mind in the future, there are costs and help funding there available for you to install, for example, a forest road or a turning circle, or improve recreational access. So that's if you want to put a trail in and allow public to access that trail. UCO has the flexibility to allow you to create woodland for your objectives, and it fits in with future funding changes. So it fits in with elms as it comes in. It's designed to sort of fit seamlessly, hopefully, into sustainable farming incentive, local nature recovery and landscape recovery. Elms will provide the main delivery mechanism for publicly funded woodland after 2024. But in the meantime, we've got these grants. They're an important precursor to that process, and they've been developed with that transition in mind. So how does the England Woodland Creation Offer, or UCO, stack up? So there's a basic cost of £8,500 per hectare to support the tree planting activities. And that support for capital items and activities to create your new woodland. It's got a wider menu of standard costs compared to countryside stewardship. And there's a new higher maximum cap for standard costs. So here's some examples of what's currently being paid for the capital items. So supply and plant a tree, £1.60, mulch mats, £1.79, and deer fencing down here at £11.15 per metre with a rabbit netting supplement of £3.12. So that's the kind of items that the grant is there to help support you to purchase. The annual maintenance payments are at £200 per year per hectare, and you receive that for 10 years of maintenance. That might be for inter-row mowing, as I mentioned, or it could be to replace dead and dying trees. It could be to do fence repairs, and there's indication that the annual maintenance payment will increase. The price will increase shortly. You can apply for the annual maintenance payments, and so it's your choice whether you take it or not, but it's absolutely there for you to claim if you want to. On top of the maintenance payments, you've got your actual costs for activities. So that's the contribution towards the cost of infrastructure. As I mentioned before, there's a 40% intervention rate, or providing infrastructure for woodland management. So if you're looking to put a forest road in, for example, or a turning circle. And there's recreational infrastructure there, 100% intervention rates. On top of that, there's the additional contributions. And this is where the grant becomes quite attractive in terms of extra payments, because you can receive up to £8,000 per hectare when contributing to nature recovery. So if you're connecting existing areas of woodland, for example, you get extra payment for flood alleviation. So if you're planting in an area that's prone to flooding or lies wet, if you're in an area that needs to improve its water quality, there's extra payment available. And if you're looking to benefit or improve public health in the region, if you're next to, say, a settlement, a town or city, there's the option to claim that additionality on top of that. It's based on your location and based on the design, species design primarily, and the species choices that you make in your woodland creation. It's optional and it's stackable, and the lump sum payment is made at the end when the capital works are completed. And there's a table here just to illustrate what those additionalities are. So between £2,800 and £1,100 there for the high and the medium rates for nature recovery. Either one of those rates will apply to your particular area. You could claim, as I said, for water quality at £400 per hectare, for reduced flood risk at £500 per hectare. And for planting next to a watercourse and providing a riparian buffer, that's planting next to a river or a watercourse, that's £1,600 hectare. If you're again close to settlement, it's £500 per hectare. And then if you're looking to improve access to the public, it's £2,200 per hectare. So what that might look like on the ground, we've got a scheme over here, for example, in between those two rows, as indicated by the tree, and that would qualify for water, for flooding, and biodiversity, given its proximity to watercourses and that narrow band of woodland next to, as indicated by my cursor there, next to that road there. Also, we've got a different scheme here that's next to that settlement, and that's claiming more in the way of additionalities given its proximity to that settlement. And also it's because it's connecting existing woodland here, which might be priority habitat. So for biodiversity, there's £2,800 there potentially. Over here on the right-hand side of the map here, we've got a scheme which is a bit more standalone, but still qualifies for £400 for water improvement and £500 for flood alleviation. And the message here is that each location, although it's 600 metres away from the next, supports a range of additionalities. You can also blend UCO with private finance. In fact, private finance is actively encouraged through UCO scoring. And additional contributions do not restrict applicants in generating timber or carbon income. So if your intention is to get a source of income from timber or carbon, additional contributions are still allowed. Where private finance is used for a particular public benefit, though, we would not pay the relevant additional contributions. You can opt out of additional contributions once capital work is complete. And after the grant contract ends, land managers can seek further finance for those benefits, subject to demonstrating relevant natural capital market entry requirements. So this slide just really illustrates how UCO can actually stack up. So you've got your standard costs, your basic payment scheme can continue for as long as that will continue on eligible land planted under UCO. You get your maintenance payments, your additional costs for activities, your additional contributions, that's for nature recovery, flood alleviation, water quality and public health, as we just discussed. And on top of the additional contributions, there's the option to access private finance for timber and for carbon, and private finance for ecosystem services. So for carbon, you can access the Woodland Carbon Code and Woodland Carbon Guarantee on top of your additional contributions and UCO payments for the rest of the grant. So it starts to stack up and become an attractive package. Just a word on tax relief. So trees are subject to a range of tax relief, including a growing timber crop is exempt from capital gains tax, but not on the land it grows on, where it's managed as a commercial investment. Income from the sale of timber from the ownership of commercial woodlands is exempt from income and corporation tax. And under woodlands relief, the value of woodland can be exempted from inheritance tax. So in order to qualify for woodland relief or woodlands relief, at the time of your death, you must have owned the land concerned for at least 5 years. That's if you bought it. But if you acquired it or otherwise, perhaps it was gifted to you or you inherited it, there's no minimum ownership period. If we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible, this grant, available to as low as 1 hectare per application, and that can be made up of 0.1 hectare blocks, hectare 100 metres by 100 metres, obviously. So those 0.1 hectare blocks, you could have 10 by 10 metre sections on your application. The minimum block width is 10 metres for riparian buffers and shelter belts. So for example, on the back of that slide there, you can see that water course running through, and this planting is up against the right up against that water course, and that would qualify for riparian planting. There's no maximum size to the application, and we support natural colonisation as well in the grant. So if you've got existing woodland on your land that's already starting to naturally regenerate, naturally colonise into field margins, then we support that through fencing. We support it through tubing, stems that are coming through, and there's also ground prep elements for natural colonisation you can claim on UCO as well. You can transfer from ES, environmental stewardship, penalty free. And as I mentioned, it's designed to enable greater private investment. So the grant process, first step would be to register yourself with the RPA if you've not already registered. It might be then to apply for a woodland creation planning grant, which is the grant there available to you to plant schemes over 5 hectares. After that, you could submit your UCO application, but there's no obligation to apply for a woodland creation planning grant if you don't want to. You can go straight into UCO if you wish. We'll do our diligence and put the proposal out to public consultation. And we'll arrange for your land to be released from ES if applicable. And then we aim for a UCO and an EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment decision, within 3 to 5 months. That's asterisked at the moment because we're working under quite a lot of pressure at the moment. So that's for guidelines, that's a time frame at the moment. So we support you during the process for woodland creation in planning and design, through planting and establishment, and helping you to look at long-term viability. What would practical advice look like? So that could be a phone call, it could be a farm visit from either a woodland creation officer like myself or a woodland officer. And we do have dedicated Forestry Commission admin hub to help us process these applications. You'll be able to transfer penalty free into an environmental land management scheme once you've secured a place in it. So there's no risk in that, and the time is now. And we've updated our forestry environmental impact assessment processes. And that obviously, the EIA is how you, as a project proposer, can check whether your forestry project is likely to have a significant environmental impact. And projects that are likely to have significant impact on the environment will require consent from the Forestry Commission. But the point is, we've made our forms easier, hopefully with clearer guidance. We've also improved the data available on our map browser and how that reports in lists in the land information search. The scheme's open all year round. Basic payments can continue to be claimed, and CS, countryside stewardship, can be transferred onto this scheme if you haven't planted your trees yet. So some basic eligibility here for the scheme. It's got to be in England. Minimum application size 1 hectare. Minimum width 20 metres, or 10 metres for shelter belts and riparian planting. There's no maximum application or block size. We welcome joint applications. The land must be free from existing grant schemes. So we can accept schemes that have ES or CS running, but only with 6 months or less to run. The minimum block size is 0.1 hectare per application. Proposals must be UK Forest Standard compliant. So that means the UK Forest Standard is the sort of benchmark standard by which all forestry projects must adhere to. And we welcome public body applications as well.